Welcome. My name is Tawanda Clark Edgar. I'm actually the Chief Program Officer at Gwen's Girls, and this is one of the many podcasts that we will be doing. This podcast will kick off the first Friday of every month, and it is called Parenthetically Speaking. I'm sitting here today with Maria Cersei, who I'm really happy to have with me. Maria, you want to tell the group a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you came to be the education expert here at Gwen's Girls?
Oh, expert. Yeah, right, Wanda. Well, I'm so happy to be here. First of all, the way I got started in parent engagement is with my own children. Just trying to make sure that when I enrolled them in the Pittsburgh Public School, I had no idea because my kids were. I live on the north side. I enrolled my kids on a school on the south side, so in a very dissimilar neighborhood. So it all started with just me as a parent want to, make sure that my kids were getting the best education and safeguarded. I had no idea when I enrolled them in the school that I would meet with such disparities and, and actually racism in school. So once my oldest child was in the Pittsburgh public school system and I was confronted with those kind of issues, it became, I just saw it was a necessity in order for me to partner with the school, to be involved in the school so that they could get the best education possible. So that's how I became the parent expert.
All right. And so, Maria, you've been quite the parent guru. I know I wish I certainly had you when I was parenting my own children and when they were growing up in Pittsburgh Public Schools. One of the things that you have said that has really just been an aha moment for me is that you said it is not the parent's role to educate their children. And
Absolutely.
I certainly know that that was a burden of mine when my children were growing up. I felt like I was responsible for what they didn't know and what they did know. And I mean, I know I certainly play a part in that as a parent, but can you explain that to parents who may have been feeling or may feel the same way that I felt about this whole idea that we are supposed to carry the weight of parenting and educating our children? Well,
Sure.
parenting, but educating our children.
Sure. And Tawanda, it was funny when I told you that, and your eyes kind of, got wide, and you were reflecting on how, you internalized that, and was like, it's so. Here's the thing, and you. I mean, there's so many parents like yourself that feel like, they have the guilt associated with their kids not, not achieving well in schools, but parents are considered first teachers. So I think it's important that parents understand that fundamentally a parent is, we want to start from the premise that all parents want what's best for their children, but parents are not teachers. They do not go. Most parents don't go to college and go through academic education a program to understand or to become a teacher. So it's the teacher's responsibility and to partner, with the parent, so that parents feel like they are equal partners in their children's education. So, for example, a lot of parents will, if a child can't do homework, a teacher might say to them, well, here's some things you can teach them at home. You shouldn't. So parents do not always understand concepts. You heard the saying, are you smarter than a fifth grader? So a lot of parents by the third grade, it's really hard to understand, like new math, something like, lattice division or something like that. So what is important that parents hold teachers responsible for their child securing skills. And so when your child comes home and they're learning new concepts in school and they can't do their homework, then it's not your responsibility that your child secures that particular skill. It should be a partnership. So you go to the expert. The teacher's the expert. The parent is supposed to be at home helping to facilitate homework, but certainly not to teach skills. And so a lot of times, like yourself, you felt responsible. If your child could not do a specific concept. I remember my daughter having a hard time with the concept of elapsed time in the third grade. I didn't know how to help her understand that. And the teacher's like, well, here's some videos you can practice with her. I'm like, she's supposed to secure that skill in your classroom, not at home. And so, we have to do everything we can, to help children secure concepts in the classroom. And sometimes the teaching and learning environment isn't, conducive to children learning, or there's noise. Or I've been in classrooms where my child's back was towards a blackboard. So, it's really important that parents understand who's responsible. That is the teacher for securing concepts, teaching concepts, and that partnership goes along and persists, so that students are achieving at a rate so they would have a trajectory, so they're successful.
I certainly like what you said in reference to it being a partnership and that the two work together. Parents certainly have their role. Their role is not to educate. That's why teachers go to school. They student teach so that they can certainly do that. However, parents do support the teacher in being able to educate the student, to educate their child. You talked a little bit in the beginning about disparities, academic disparities, particularly among the Black culture and among Black children. You want to speak a little bit to that and what you see in the school systems and what you think might be done so that we might do a better job at closing that academic gap?
Yeah, so closing the achievement gap is a multi-faceted problem. There's so much that points to why Black children aren't achieving. But from my experience, number one, I think it is fair to say that our public school system, is systemically racist. And so when I say that, what does that mean? First of all, Black children are in the system and they don't see teachers that look like themselves in the classroom. That's number one.
Absolutely.
And so,
Absolutely.
We have, and that's not to diminish anyone who is, Caucasian
Absolutely.
or, not African American in the classroom, but we have to do better at recruiting Black teachers, especially Black male teachers and Black principals, leaders of schools, and retaining those teachers so that our children can identify with who's teaching them.
Absolutely.
That's very important. We also have a problem with the culture and climate of the teaching and learning environment. You look around on walls and children don't see themselves. The school that my children went to, it was on the south side in a predominantly white neighborhood. And inside the school, there was one Black teacher for their entire elementary education. And there was this lone picture of Martin Luther King on the wall. Now, how is that reflective of a Black child's culture?
Right.
And another thing is the curriculum. You hear this word constantly. Is the curriculum culturally responsive? A lot of things that children are learning nowadays let me just tell you, they're bored to death. They're bored from kindergarten to 12th grade. They're not learning things that will engage them in the classroom, that interest them. And when curriculum is very Eurocentric, and children are, looking at TV and looking at social media and looking at their family and and they're not reflected in the curriculum. That's a real problem. And then there's and you notice from working at Gwen's Girls that a lot of people who are in front of our classroom, in front of our kids, don't have the tolerance and don't understand, or they're afraid of our children. And so
Absolutely.
anything that doesn't look like behavior that they understand is like disrespectful, and that's how children end up in the juvenile justice system. So we know from what we do at Gwen's Girls Together that a lot of what starts that school to prison pipeline and that disparity for referrals to the office is behavior that is not tolerant, zero tolerance, and that's problematic for
absolutely.
For
and I think a lot of times people don't realize what goes on within the school system. I spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh Public, so I'm certainly aware of what you're talking about. You came up with this idea of parenthetically speaking. I thought that was an amazing brainchild. Yes. So I'd like for you to talk a little bit about parenthetically speaking and what you'll be doing around the whole concept of parenthetically speaking.
Well, I can't take the credit for that. That came from my pastor, Dr. William Curtis of Mount Airy.
Awesome.
He would always use a phrase, parenthetically speaking. And I was sitting in church one day just listening to how awesome and prolific my pastor is. And I'm like, oh, parenthetically. Okay, so I saw the parent in there.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm not really sure what
Okay.
parenthetic means.
All right.
Parenthetic speaking, it actually means in the margins, in the
Okay.
parentheses. And so
Okay.
I'm like, okay, that just resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we're in the margin. We're
Wow.
we're thought about secondary. We're marginalized. And so that's so
Absolutely.
I adopted that that phrase from my pastor and thought that, unfortunately it is a good it is a good phrase to depict how I feel Black parents are seen as not a priority. We are in
Absolutely.
the margins. We are parenthetic when it
Right.
comes to this very this system that cuts us out and
Right,
marginalizes
right.
us.
And so, how are you hoping that parents that listen to this particular podcast and the many, many more podcasts that you'll be
Yes.
doing, what is your hope that they'll be able to take out of it? What is the service that you'll be able to offer to them? And not just parents, to community members as well. What is it that you want them to know about what you'll be doing through these podcasts?
So first, just really fundamentally, I want parents to understand how important they are to their child's education.
Absolutely.
I want parents to look at a principal, any kind of administrator, a superintendent, and say, I have just as much right. Regardless of what I know, regardless of education status, economic status, I have a right to be at the table.
Absolutely.
And I'm not talking about sitting at the table for compliance and check off. I'm talking about sitting at the table, making informed decisions about my child's education. And so in order to do that, in order to sit at a table as an equal partner, we have to educate parents. We have to help them understand fundamentally, what is your child supposed to be learning?
Absolutely.
And what is the course of, what is the path of recourse to advocate with your children when you can't get it at the local level, or you can't get it in the classroom? I've had many of day where I have issues with a classroom teacher, at a very valid, issue, and as a well-informed parent, I knew how to go to the local, in my district, to a principal, to an assistant superintendent, and then up the ladder. And when I couldn't get satisfaction at the local level, then I went to the state level. So again, another thing would be is to educate parents about policies, procedures, and school governance.
Okay.
So
Okay.
those are the things we're going to be offering in the podcast and in
Okay.
the workshops that will accompany the podcast.
Right. And I think we even talked a little bit about not just talking for every podcast either. We would do a couple of things where we may even act out a few things, give you an opportunity to call in with questions. If you have questions, Maria will certainly be available to answer those questions for you. So after this podcast, if you decide that you have questions that haven't been answered or questions that were pressing and you didn't know who you could turn to and who you could ask, I am going to say hold on to those questions. For our next podcast, you'll have an opportunity to actually have some of those questions answered by Maria for Parenthetically Speaking. So we want to just be an all-around support for those individuals who just need some support and assistance with navigating their way throughout the Pittsburgh or any school system for that matter. Because Maria, speak a little bit about how far you've gone in reference to really supporting and advocating parents. You've done this work on.
Yeah, I'm in about my 14th year of advocacy. So I started simply as a parent, a chaperone. I shouldn't say simply, because that's important.
Absolutely.
So I started as a chaperone, and then I was nominated I became a certified tutor, just so I can be present in the classroom. And I understand that parents don't have the kind of time I had because I was self-employed.
Okay.
But to be in a school, to observe at some level
Absolutely.
is really important. And so, so my involvement in a school as a tutor, and going to the various meetings, like not just the PTO, but not just the PTA, but the parent teacher organizations and the things that were the most important parent opportunities for parents to be engaged, so you could understand school policies. And that's and then when I was in a school and saw the disparities, then that really catapulted my advocacy to the state level. And so I was nominated to the Equity Advisory Panel for Pittsburgh Public Schools, and now I am at the state level as a parent involvement in education consultant for the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And now doing this work for Gwen's Girls.
And
I'm
that's
very
amazing.
happy to do that.
So you'll be willing to share so much of what you know with our studio and our listening audience, which is absolutely great. When I think about the vast amounts of things that parents need to know in reference to supporting their children in school, can you talk a little bit about those things that you think are imperative? What would be a good starting point for parents who just don't know what to do in reference to navigating the school system? I can certainly remember talking to parents who had to go in for IEP meetings and not being really clear on an IEP or not having the education that they needed themselves to even be able to support their children. So what are some of the things that you think might be just a great starting point for parents if they don't know? Where are resources that they can look for information at? I know I'm just throwing those questions at you.
You know what? That's fine. So, I think if we could do a how-to manual, and that's something we can think about, but I have a niece who has a daughter in the Pittsburgh public school system, and she started, looking for a kindergarten, for a place for her to go to kindergarten. We have to understand, like, what are the choices for school? Because you look at a school, and I'm just talking Pittsburgh public because that's what I'm most familiar with.
Right.
But what are the school choices, and how does that system work?
Right.
So the magnet school system, because if you have a certain zip code, you might not be able to get your child in the highest performing schools. So what does that mean? So parents need to start.
Wait. You said if I have a certain zip code, I may not be able to get my child in the highest performing school? So explain what that means.
Let's just get clear. Colfax and Squirrel Hill is our number one performing school in the Pittsburgh public school system. If you don't live in Squirrel Hill, so let's say my niece lived in Manchester. She did not have a Squirrel Hill zip code.
Okay.
Colfax is 20% black. And the school that schools on the north side are almost 99% like Martin Luther King. Now, it would have been easy for her to get her into Martin Luther King, but not into the highest performing school. You look at so that's important for a parent to say, when there's early education.
Absolutely.
What's going on in schools? Because a lot of parents don't understand the disparity. Colfax is number one. So your chances of getting a better education in Colfax versus a Martin Luther King or even an Allegheny. Allegheny is a high-performing school, but not as high as Colfax. So why is it just 20% black? That's a problem, So understand school choice and understand, like, what is the magnet system? How does it work? What are the dates? We don't understand that, So the magnet school system is just sort of like this, this system that really doesn't work for us, Another thing is governance, school governance, like who's in charge. The Pittsburgh public school system and all systems have a hierarchy chart. So parents need to understand that the school superintendent works for us. So when you look at an organization chart, the community and parents are at the top, then the school board directors, and then the superintendent. People think the opposite. And so we have a very important school board election coming up. It is important that parents understand who is your representative in your district and how does that work. And also, not just at the local level, who governs the superintendent in the school board. So there's a state school board, there's a Pennsylvania state school board, and there are people in Harrisburg that you can call when you're not getting the information that you need.
Okay.
And more importantly, understand what your children are supposed to learn at every grade level and at checkpoints. So in the kindergarten, what does the curriculum look like? Give me a curriculum roadmap and let me so I know.
Are you hearing that, parents? A curriculum roadmap. I think that is very important to know.
Yeah.
What is the curriculum roadmap?
So it's a detailed. That's just what it is. It's a detailed information of what a child should be learning in every semester, and so that at the end of the school year, that when they take the assessment, the whatever the assessment is, if it's DIBELS or it's PSSA or Keystone, those standardized tests that every child has to take to show performance. If a child is not learning what is on that roadmap, what the school and this Pennsylvania Department of Education says a child should learn, they're not going to pass the assessment. So parents should have that curriculum roadmap, understanding, at checkpoints, not wait till the end of the school year. They're broken down into semesters. So parents should be partnering with the teachers to say, okay, so for example, let me make it simple. If my child in the 3rd grade is supposed to read these 3 novels and learn this particular, what did they call it? Like, hooked on phonics, that phonemic awareness,
right?
And that's not happening. Then that's a problem for the school.
Okay.
So how is a child going to advance? And oftentimes children are socially promoted, and we know that key grade, 3rd grade and 6th grade, is pivotal. So if your child is not doing well in the 3rd grade, you got a problem.
So, Maria, this sounds like so much. I'm so overwhelmed with everything that I need to remember. And so what is a good starting place for parents? What is a just Parent Basics 101? What do you want parents to know?
Yeah, so, here's the thing. This is going to be a really good starting place for us to talk, like put it into bite-sized pieces. And that's why we're going to do the workshop. But I think it's important, here's the thing. There are all kind of websites, starting with the Pittsburgh Public School website or your child's school's website. You can go on a here's the thing. Parents are never, told to look at the school's website and understand. It should be broken down. There's for a school, and there's curriculum and parent engagement, and when the meetings happen, and school governance, and Title I family engagement policy. So visit your school's website. That's a good place to start. And there are links to state websites so that parents can understand. And it's overwhelming, it really is. So we're going to try to break it down, but I think the school website is a good place to start.
So I think that's a great starting point. I'm hearing you say start at the school's website, see what's going on at the school's website, see what information you're able to gather from the school's website. And if you have something that's coming up, an IEP meeting, and you need support, then I am going to say that you certainly want to reach out to us and reach out to Maria Searcy, and we'll get you that information. It'll be at the bottom of the screen so that you have it. And you can certainly send an email and perhaps give a call, and we will make sure to answer any questions that you have. So you no longer have to feel like you're doing this on your own anymore. You have
Absolutely.
a support person, someone that's going to hold your hand. I certainly wish I would have had a Maria Searcy when I was raising my children and they were in school, because I needed a lot of help. We are going to be closing out this segment of Parenthetically Speaking, but I want you to know that you can look for us every first Friday of every month. Maria will be with us sharing information and knowledge. She is going to be that parent that's holding your hand, helping you get through it, helping you with those things that you don't understand. So we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming podcast. Maria, do you have something you want to leave us with?
So Wanda, I just want to tell you, I really appreciate, being here. And I think I just want to leave parents with saying, just please believe that you are an important first teacher. You are your child's first teacher. Don't let anybody make you feel guilty about what you don't know. And here's something too that I want to tell parents. Parent engagement does not mean always being present, brick and mortar. You see what's going on with e-learning now, right?
Absolutely.
Parents are involved, and they're not in school, haven't been in schools for months, but they're still engaged with their family.
They're a major part of
they're
it now.
They're very engaged with their
Exactly.
families. And so, engagement doesn't always mean present. Engagement means how much do you know to support your child. And so that's what we're going to do here.
I'm excited.
Engage, equip, and educate parents.
Engage, equip, and educate parents.
Yes,
you can
indeed.
look forward to that. And I think on that note, we'll see you on the next Parenthetically Speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawanda.